Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. So I've done this a couple times. One time the audio didn't work. Still trying to work it out. Excited to be here this morning with you. So the information I'm going to share today is all about Google Docs and how to be more productive in Google Docs. This is a semi-PD that I created and worked through with some of our district administrators and admin assistants in our school district. So I just wanted to share this out on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter with everybody. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll try and reply right then to those comments. But the first thing I wanted to do is show you just some of the unknown tools. And by this time, maybe some of you know a lot of them. Some of you may not. We have a blank Google tab here. And to create a new doc, we just click docs.new. And that creates a blank document for us. So we're going to be working with two documents today. We're going to be working with this one that I just created, a blank one, and then some other ones that I'm going to pull up that I've created earlier that just show different ways of doing things and organizing things in Google Docs. I think besides Gmail, this is where most people spend their time, is in Google Docs, creating documents, maybe sheets, depending on what you do for a career. But I think most teachers are creating in Google Docs. So once we have a new Google Doc, we always want to name that Google Doc. If you look in your Google Drive right now, I did this yesterday, and just search for untitled document, you'll probably have a couple hundred documents that are just untitled documents, depending on how long you've been working in Google Docs. But a lot of times we create a new document, but we forget to title it. Google usually automatically gives the document a title after we start typing text. And so when we put this in, with auto saving up here, you can see this. We don't have it in a folder yet or in Drive or anything. What I usually do is I will just copy the first line and throw that up in the name of the document. You don't have to do that, but it's just an easy way to make sure that you have a name for your document as you move forward. So once you've named this document, you want to locate it in your Drive. You want to put it somewhere and organize it. I'm all about organizing as I go instead of trying to organize in batches. Some people are different. Some people like to organize in batches, and that's fine. I think I probably learned this from my wife. She likes to clean as she goes instead of waiting for a big mess at the end of a meal or whatever. Anyway, however you want to do that, you would come up here to move, and then you would add it to a folder in your Drive. I'm going to end up deleting this document when I'm done with it because it's just a test document for the tutorial. But I think those are important things to do in order after you name the document, and then throw it in a folder so that you can find it later. Once that's done, depending on the type of document it is, you can actually save that document as a starred document, which will show up in your starred documents when you're searching for Drive. And we'll get into what that looks like in Drive for a few minutes into the future. So when we're here and we're looking through Google Docs, there's a lot of different things that we're looking at, right? We have our WYSIWYG bar, we have our menu bar, we have some stuff over here on the right. We've got our right sidebar, which allows us to pull in any of the other Google tools such as Calendar, Keep, Tasks, Contacts, Maps. You can add other items that connect with Google Docs. So when I click on Get Add-ons, what you'll see is this will basically take me to the Google Workspace Marketplace. And all of the tools or add-ons that work with Google Docs are here. If they don't work with Docs, they won't show up here. And so you'll see that I already have some installed. I have Lucid Charts. I have Kzina. There's a lot of different tools and add-ons that you can add on to make things better for you in Google Docs. There's Auto Translator. You can do this by paragraph. There's a highlighting tool, which actually uses your mouse as the highlighter instead of going up to the top and highlighting text, which is kind of annoying. There's also one down here, Wordle, or not Wordle, but Word Cloud Generator. It'll take a document. It'll pull all of the information from that document and turn it into a Wordle. So this is great if you're using Google Classroom, doing assignments with groups. You can pull that information out and use that Word Cloud Generator, and it'll actually just embed that word cloud right into the Google Doc. So it's a great way to get kids engaged. Obviously, if you work in an office staff, if you're printing off labels or postcards for your kids, you can merge things into the Avery labels. I think a lot of that is done easier in Google Sheets than Google Docs, but that's on me. So you can find all those here. Again, when you select anything else in the sidebar on the right-hand side, contacts, it'll just open up all that information. So you can also take this document and throw it right into a Google Meet. By clicking here, you can make a call surrounding that document, and that'll pull that document into the Google Meet. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm on a live stream on YouTube, but you can pull that information in right there. You also have access to the open comment history. We'll talk more about comments when we get into editing, commenting, and suggesting mode. You also have this tool here. It's really, really cool. As an administrator, when I send documents out to my staff or my team or to parents, I can actually see how many people have viewed that document and what they are looking at. So I'm going to go to another document and just look at this so you can see what that looks like as a user or an owner of a document if you haven't used it before. It's in another location as well. So this is a PD agenda that I put together and shared with our district. When I click on the Insights tab, it'll pull up this option here, and it'll show me who viewed this document and when they viewed that document. So yesterday was when I actually produced, right, or gave this presentation to them, and it would be the viewer trend. I can see how many people viewed it when, and this is throughout the history of the document. So there was a question that just came in through the chat from Isabel. You can absolutely insert photos into these, super easy. When we go here to a document and we just hover over here to insert image, we can upload that image from a computer. We can search the web, and this will actually pull Google free images from the web, and I can grab a image and just drag it over to my document. And then that image now is in the document. So that was a great question, Isabel. And then if I want to delete it, I can just delete it. So you don't even have to upload your own images. You can just pull them straight from Google. And again, the way that we did that was go to Insert Image, search the web. You can also pull images from the camera. So if I did the camera right now, it would take a picture of me. URL is, excuse me, if we have the URL from another website and we want to embed that in, you can go to Google Photos, which is all the photos that are connected to this Gmail account. And then you can obviously go to your drive, or you can upload them from your computer. So that was a great question. When we're looking at a document, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at this document, and we can remove the ruler, we can remove spacing. This is something that Google's just added in the past couple of weeks, this kind of no page layout. And so if you're following along with me and you want to open up another window, you can click on File. And when we go down to Page Setup, you'll see that we have this new option called Pageless. When I click on Pageless, what that's going to do is it's going to expand my template basically outside of a normal 8.5 by 11 page. So I'll click on Pageless and you'll see that it's showing there. I can click OK, and you'll see that I can just kind of go, whoops, switch to the wrong screen. It's taking up the full screen now, and I don't have any restrictions as far as my ruler. Now you can see right here at the top, if I zoom in, the ruler still exists, but I can actually go outside of the page and go wherever I want to. And the way that I can do that is just slide these sliders over and place different items in different places. So I'm actually going to go back to the page, undo that. So we get the ruler at the top, go to File, Page Setup. We're going to click on Pages. There's a lot of information here when you go into the page setup. We can change the background color of a document. So if we want to do orange, bright orange, that's probably a little too bright. Let's go orange here. I can also change it to landscape mode. So when I click OK, you'll see now that instead of an 8.5 by 11, which is a classic traditional piece of paper, I can go 11.5 by 8, and my document already has a background color there. So I'm going to undo both of those and just go back to the traditional page here. Click OK. You'd also set up your margins here. You can apply this to selected content, depending on how you're organizing your content on those pages. So what that means is you can have 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 11. Then you can have a horizontal page and a vertical page, horizontal, kind of however you want to set that up. Some other things in file that I think that are super important to know is you can actually email this document straight to anybody right from here. You can also do this as a share. When you share, you're giving somebody permissions, right, to view, to edit. When I go to email this file, it's going to allow me to send it to a specific person, but also send it as a specific file. You'll notice down here, I can attach this or don't attach, and it'll allow me to send it in multiple formats. So whether that's a Word document, just plain text, HTML, open document, a PDF, or rich text. And that's different than if I decide to share this with somebody in Gmail, because when I share it with somebody in Gmail, it's just going to stay in their document. It'll show up in their shared with me file. I'm actually going to close one of these windows really quick because the sun just came out. So give me just a second. I'll keep talking. So there we go. That's much better. So when we share this, it's a Google Doc with the person that creates that Google Doc. When we email it, it just creates it as an attachment. The other thing that I like to do in the file menu is I can add a shortcut in my drive. And then when I'm looking for this document later, it's really, really easy to find. One of the most important things I think when working in a Google document, especially when you're sharing it with multiple people across multiple teams or different things like that, is the version history. So the version history will allow you, and I'm going to go to a different document so you can see what this looks like. File, down to version history, and I want to see the version history. What Google gives you the ability to do in a Google Doc is to see any change that's ever been made on a document, who made that change, when they changed it, and what they changed or edited in the document. So you can see here, when I am in this document, that's something I've been working on for a couple of weeks and sharing with our district, as I stated earlier, you can see any change that I've made at this document at any time. Well, let's say that somebody else is in this document. So yesterday, Nathan Price, he's a colleague of mine, was in this document and he made some changes. And we did this actually for the presentation, the PD, with some of our admin assistants. When I click on this little down arrow, you can see every individual change with a timestamp. What this allows you to do is, if you're the owner of this document or a collaborator on this document, and maybe you've made some mistakes and maybe somebody's made changes to it that you don't necessarily like. I know when working with students in Google Classroom, and this was even high school students, a lot of times they would make changes to each other's stuff accidentally, because you get 4 or 5 people working on a document in a group, and sometimes they're goofing around, right? But I would have them highlight specific text that they had entered or edited, and I wanted to go back in and look at that. So I could go back in and search for, let's say I want to search for this. When I click on this document, it's going to go back to yesterday at 10:53. It's not going back in time, but that's what it looks like. And when I go look for the changes, you'll see right here that Nathan Price added this text at this time. Then again at 10:56, he added this checkoff. So this was a task that I gave him in Google Docs to show how tasks work, or assigning things to people. So he checked this off that this was done. So this is a great way to find out and view your version history of the document. And again, it goes all the way back to the very, very beginning. So I started this document a couple weeks ago. So if you go back and look, this was just me at the very, very beginning of the document. If I want to restore this version, I can go to this version and it's just the very beginning of the template and the setup. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to go back and have to add all that information. If I did do that though, what I can do is I can go to today's version, the current version of the document, which has the most recent changes that were made, yesterday. So this is an ongoing document. Obviously, it was a recording. I went back and added timestamps, and then I deleted them to use for something else before I shared that. So that's a great tool in version history that allows you to go into the document. So essentially, students, if you're a teacher or working on a collaborative team, you cannot mess this up. And this is not just for docs. This goes with sheets and slides and forms. So you can go look at a version history of anything in those documents. So today we're specifically focusing on Google Docs. So the other thing that I really like in File is to move things around. You also have the ability to publish this to the web. So to publish this as the web, it actually becomes a static web address that you can share on your school website. So when I would want to use this or publish this to the web, maybe it's a student handbook that I am linking on my school website. The beautiful thing about that is that when you make changes here, it makes changes there. You can also do that by sharing this to the web. There are times though when I like it just to be open up in a new tab and they can't mess with it. You can also upload it as a PDF. To publish things to the web, you just come down here, click on Publish to the Web, and you can embed this document or you can just link it. When I click on link and click publish, it's going to say, are you sure you want to publish this selection? And then I click OK. It will give me a live link on how to publish to the web. So those are some great tools in the file menu. I think edit menu, there's a find and replace. I use this a lot. Part of it is because when I was in high school, I was trained to do 2 spaces. Then when I got to college, it was 1 space. So there's times when I want to go and find and replace things in my document. So I want to find double spaces, and you'll see that it just pulled all those up. And I want to replace it with 1 space. I can replace all, and all of those are changes. Now, when is another good time to use this? Well, if I'm copying a document from another teacher, another school, or another grade, and I love, maybe it's a form letter, and I love the letter, but instead of saying 3rd grade teachers, I just want to change it to 4th grade. I could go in and search for 3rd grade throughout that whole document and change them to 4th. Maybe it's a reference of a spelling, right? Maybe it's a resume that somebody's created and they've spelled something wrong multiple times because they've set their auto spell or their autocorrect to the wrong setting. You can go back in and change that by doing the find and replace, and you can do all of them at one time. Also in edit, we have copy and paste with formatting. I'm going to show you this here. So we're going to go to espn.com. I'm going to look at one of the first articles, and I'm going to copy and paste some of the text that's not paid for. Seems like everything now on ESPN is paid for. But I'm going to grab just all of this information here. I'm going to take this into our blank document. And if I'm doing this right live, I copy and paste this, the formatting is here. You'll see that I have the highlights, the images, the logos, the bolding, the spacing. When I go to edit, I can actually paste that, and I could have done that without the formatting, right? But when I do that, edit, oh, I have to install it. So this is a Chrome extension. It will pull off all of that formatting for me in one step right then. So there's another way to do that too. I want to say it's under format, clear formatting. And you'll notice it still has the headers, but all of the other bold and italic and spacing text is gone. So you can do that either by copying that over or just leaving that in this. And so I'm going to close this window now that we don't need it anymore. I'm going to undo that so we don't have that anymore. We're going to go to view. So view just shows what this is going to look like on your screen. When we're talking about Google Docs, we're talking about this here. We're talking about the ruler. We're talking about the navigation bar. When I click on show ruler, you'll see that that disappears. I'm going to add that back. So I think there's times when we accidentally delete stuff, and I've actually seen this a lot in Google Forms and different things like that, where people accidentally forget that they've deleted something. This is how you add that back, is by going to the view. We can actually do section breaks. We can do the equation toolbar, right? This is if you're a math teacher and you want to add equations in, you can do stuff in here. And then the mode will tell us if we're in editing, suggesting, or viewing mode. So we're going to jump into what that looks like right now. I'm actually going to jump over to another document so you can see that just has more text. So I have this agenda laid out that we've been using for the past couple of weeks, and I like to have running agendas. So the running agenda has the weeks or the meeting dates here, and it's all in one document. I think it's extremely silly and non-productive for an entire school to be searching for one document every Friday or every Thursday. Instead, I have everything on one running document. It's great too, because then you can follow up with everybody from the week before. When I go to view and I go to mode, you'll notice that the blue pen is highlighted. That means I'm in editing mode. That also matches what I have over here. And I am going to go remove this. I think I might have to have the StreamYard logo. Yeah, so I've got to have a logo there, but at least you can see it a little bit better. So when we're in editing mode in the top right-hand corner, you can see that we're in editing. The minute that I change the mode to suggesting, you'll see now that that turns green. Anytime I make an edit, and this goes to the owner, and I click a plus sign here, this becomes a recommended edit in the document. You can see this bubble here. It's going to now send me an email that says, hey, Spencer is suggesting that you change this. This is great if you're working on a team or a group of students collaboratively. Most likely, if you're working with adults, they would just make that change. But if you're the final, kind of approver on the document, maybe it's a project, you would want to go through and check those off that you're going to accept that change. Maybe it's a spelling change. Maybe it's a grammatical error. Maybe it's just a functionality change, but you can accept that right then. So when I click on that check mark, you'll see that that goes away. The third mode is viewing mode. So when I send this to somebody, they're just in view mode. I can't make comments. I can't make any edits to this document. I've actually put myself as a viewer. So there's ways when you share the document, you can also do this with other people, that they can just view only, and then they can't edit or change it. I think that works best with Google Forms, because a lot of times when people are editing forms, they're actually editing the form, not entering information in, if you use Google Forms a lot. So I need to go back in, change the mode, and go into editing mode. You'll see here now that I have the 3 buttons, so I can either suggest a comment or just add a comment. So when we're talking about those modes, anytime we add a comment, you can actually attach the name chips to Google Docs. And what this does is this assigns something to somebody specific, that's something that they need to do. This is great when you're working with agendas. I think it also helps with follow-up and follow-through and keeping our commitments, our collective commitments as a team or as a school. When we're going through a document, and if it's all something that we're working on, what good is it to assign somebody a task or a certain part of the project if there's not going to be follow-through or follow-up on whether or not they did that or not? So you'll notice here, I'm going to pull up another document. We have a weekly PLC with the teachers in our building on Fridays. And as I scroll down, you'll see some name chips that pop up. So there's one that I was responsible for the tech tip of the week that week. This is my admin assistant, and she was just sharing information about the end of the year and supplies and different things for our end of the year. You'll notice here that we have a comment by somebody else. When I go to a document and I attach somebody, And there's two ways. I can add a certain person. So again, if I put Nathan Price in there, he'll show up. I can also add a comment here, and I can assign this to somebody. So you'll notice that this pops up when I've added this task to be completed by somebody else. So I assign this to Nathan. He's actually out of town on vacation, so I'm not going to assign this to him. Otherwise, he's going to get an email from me. But what this initially does is this triggers an assignment that goes to whoever you assign, whoever you add on the name chip, that you want them to specifically do this task. When you do this, it goes to their email box, their inbox, and they have a task sitting there until they're done with it. They can either edit it in email, right, in Gmail, or they can come to the document and make that change. And when they make that change, so I'm going to add something to myself just so you can see this here. I'm going to assign it to myself. I'm going to assign it. So you'll see here that it's floating in the Google document itself. When I go to Gmail and open up Gmail, hopefully when I record, refresh, there should be something assigned for me in here. Maybe because I'm assigning myself in this document, it's not here. But I can come in and I can actually just click this check mark and it will show that this is completed. And like I showed earlier, this will now go into the version history of this document. So I can actually go and look at a document and tell all of the assignments and who's completed their assignment. So maybe it's the night before the next PLC and I'm going through and I look and there's 2 teachers that haven't necessarily, or students that haven't finished their part of the assignment or their part of the project. I can email them right then, or I know who to talk to tomorrow morning before class starts. And I use this regularly when we were working with students. I use something from Kelly Gallagher called the Article of the Week as an English teacher, and students were responsible for doing something with a document every week. So this is a great way to hold people accountable, but also to hold themselves accountable for when they're doing things. So that's using some of the name chips. When we go to insert, this is another way to do some of the things that we've already talked about as far as images, but there's a lot of different things that you can add into a blank Google document. So we can insert images, we can pull those from the web, we can search the web, we can upload from our computer, we can go from Drive, we can go photos. I love search from web the best, just because they're safe and they're easy and they're right there at your fingertips. You don't have to go outside of the document to find them. You don't have to go to your desktop unless there's something that you're adding there. And again, to remove those, you just click delete. We can also insert tables. The beautiful thing about the tables is you can do your rows and your columns, so you can select rows and columns. This is different than copying and pasting something over from Sheets. And this is different from the new drop-down menus that show up in the insert as well. So to undo that, I would just hit Command-Z. We can insert drawings. We can insert a new drawing from Google Drive. If you're not familiar with drawings, it's a great way to add different tools. You can also insert charts, bar charts. And when you insert the chart, right, you can go through and edit the data here. It's locked. I need to open the source. And then it would actually take me to a spreadsheet that is separate, and that information is there. And then I could go back in and edit that information. If you were inserting a chart, I recommend inserting data that you already have, not doing this on the fly. But Google's made it really easy for all of our tools to connect together and use seamlessly. Again, when we're inserting, we can insert dates, right? Super easy right there. And this actually is a chip. You'll notice that when we hover over that date, it pulls up information. We can start a meeting from a Google document, and we can book that time. When I go to book meeting, it's obviously going to pull up calendar. It's going to say, hey, meeting, this is the title. Well, if you'll notice, the name of the meeting is the name of the Google document. So all of that pulls the information over from Google Docs, which is fantastic. It saves you a ton of time and energy. And some people may not use this. They may just use it from calendar, but it's a great way to start a meeting connected with a document. We can also do a drop down. Drop downs are new within about the past probably month or two. And project status, review status, these are customizable to your need. Obviously, they're created for not only the education world, but the business world. And so I would go through and I would edit some of this stuff. And there's a lot of different things that you could do with the drop-down chips. For example, if you're working with your MTSS, right? Multi-tiers of student intervention or student services. So we're moving students up and down, not academically, but behaviorally or safety-wise in a document. So when I was at a previous school, we had a document where we had, our top 10 students that we needed to find, care about, and love to death that week. They would move up and down between red, yellow, and green, depending on their status, right? If we had a student that was on red, that means that we would send an email to every teacher that student had and said, hey, you need to make eye-to-eye, face-to-face contact with this student. Now, we wouldn't necessarily always share that information as far as why they needed that, but we could go into that and we could share with the teachers, hey, this student is on red this week. We need you to really be diligent about making a connection with this student. If you're working on a project, that's a little bit different, right? So when we go to project status, we can add the edit options here. We can change all of these. We can do a new option. We can have it be a different color. We can move these around. So this would be a great way if you're sending out things to teachers or parents or however you want students, right? Hey, I completed this task, or I'm in progress. This is how I rate myself. You could have a rating system for your students. So if you're looking for mastery and they're self-grading themselves before they turn in the final thing, the kids could go through and just do a drop down on their own and say, oh, I'm not going to change now. I guess I will because I've already started. Sorry, I hit the caps lock. You could create mastery levels in this, and students could rate themselves on this. So they're done with the project and they say, you know what, I think I'm at mastery. And then when you go in and grade it and you say, hey, you know what, you're not even close. We need to have a conversation about why you think, are you looking at the rubric? There's a lot of different things that you could do in this. It also could be used just as a task complete option. Hey, we've completed this task. Instead of assigning it in the check mark, you can do that as well. So that is drop-down chips. You can add footnotes. This is obviously great for if you're writing a book in Google Docs, which we haven't even discussed at this point. Students are doing projects where they need footnotes. You just insert a footnote, and obviously this would link back up to the text that's right here, right? It's beautiful. So I'm actually going to delete these and this is a footnote. So right here, after that, insert footnote, go down to the bottom. Right. You could add whatever you wanted there. So it's a beautiful tool for students that are writing and adding different things, or if you're working on your great American novel that you're going to publish someday and become famous. So building blocks, a lot of different things with building blocks. There's email drafts. So this will create an email draft so I can write the email in Google Docs and then send it straight from there. I'm going to go through all of these so you can see what they are. These are part of the new drop-down chips that were released a couple weeks ago. Meeting notes. I can add here. I can insert a product roadmap. So here's the project. It hasn't been started. It's in progress. It's launched. Who the related files are. We can add notes. So if you have each document is a specific project, you can do different things that way. I have a separate tutorial just specifically for the drop-down chips. The other building block I think that would be cool is the content tracker, right? You can track different content throughout the different document. You'll see here that I can add or change different things here. It's all in one because I put it in, I'm going to delete all these so you can see what that looks like a little bit better. Insert project assets. So there's a lot of customizable ways to do this. We had our secretary use it for end of year checkout. We had our technician use it for checking in Chromebooks. So we have a list of all of our assets. And instead of, in Sheets, we pulled it over to Docs, and you can just change it to turned in, missing, turned in, missing, turned in, missing. There's a lot of different ways that you could use these new drop-down chips. Special characters, you can add special characters into specific documents. If there's not something here, if you want to add arrows, you can see that I can add an arrow anytime. Maybe I'm creating something a little bit more magazine style in a Google document. I have pictures, I have different size text and fonts, and I want to add images. I can do all of that here. There's hundreds of them here. You can actually draw a symbol here, and it will find something that looks like that symbol. So if I try and draw an arrow horribly, oh, there you go. Hey, it looks, we got an anchor. Let's throw the anchor in there. So again, going through individual, we can add a watermark or equation. Sorry, we can add a math equation here, and we can also create one up here in the new equation. And so that would just copy and paste into the Google document. We can insert watermarks. This is a tool that they added also just recently in the past 6, 7, 8 months to Google. When we add a watermark, it just protects our images or documents on the back end. If you're creating something for teachers, or you want people to know who to reach out to get that document, go to insert watermark. It's going to ask for which images we want to use. We could upload from our browser, camera, same places that we can always upload documents from. So down here, again, headers, footers, page numbers, I think those are pretty common. We can insert a link here, and we would just copy and paste that link. You can actually link within the same document, so you can have a jump link in Google Docs, which are great. We can include a bookmark. This is a bookmark, and if you'll notice here, let's go down here, and I will do this here. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to insert a bookmark. I'm going to copy and paste that link here, right? You'll see right here now that I've created, basically it's a hyperlink within a document. So I can jump from the top of the document down to the bottom of the document. That bookmark is right there. When I click on bookmark, you'll see right there that I have a little blue bookmark, and it goes to blocking. This is great for public documents that you're sharing with students or your community. So let's say you have a student manual, a student handbook that's 60, 70 pages long that goes over the bell schedules, lunch menu, how to do a bunch of different things. And you want to link to a specific spot in that because you have a lot of parents that are asking for that, or you want to link to another spot in your website. You can actually put that in as a live link, and it'll jump right to that spot in the document. It's also great to use table of contents. Essentially, that's what table of contents are doing, is they're just link jumping down to that specific day. And it's done automatically in the document. So it's a great way to link people within a document. Instead of sending them through the entire document, boom, this is where you go. Or you have all of your table of contents there, or you have it over here. Formatting, this is paragraph styles, line spacing, columns, bullets, numbering. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. You can add text, different types of text. I think clear formatting will clear formatting for the whole document. I showed you how to do that earlier. Page numbers, you can automatically do page numbers. I think a lot of people ask, how do I install page numbers in Google Docs? You can do the header, the footer, show on the first page, and we click apply. That shows up in the header. If we wanted to have the different page, different first page, we could do that. once we're done, you'll see that all of the pages are numbered. If I wanted to go back and switch that, I go to Format, back to Pages, and I can put it in the footer, put Apply, and it just affected this page. I'd have to remove this. And then they're all gone from the top. So it's an easy way to insert page numbers. Tools, there's a lot of different things here. There's spelling and grammar. You can do spelling and grammar checks. You can do a word count. You can also do that with the hotkeys. You can review suggested edits. So when I go to review suggested edits, I don't have any in this point because I've already accepted all of the ones that are there. Again, you can compare documents. This is something that's brand new. I haven't played around with it, but essentially it's a plagiarism checker. So if I want to compare documents, I can take this document and compare it with another document in Google Drive, and it will give me the differences or similarities in those two documents. And so you'll have basically a plagiarism checker built into Google Docs. So if I find another document, I'm not going to do this live because it takes a few seconds, but that's how you can do that kind of a plagiarism checker there. You can also have linked objects. You can pull up the dictionary. You can add citations. If you're a language arts teacher or a science teacher, now it's beautiful. Students hopefully know about this. Hopefully you're teaching them about it. I mean, I think there's a structural point where you need to teach students the importance of citations and how to do them manually. But after that, I just have a hard time. I have a really hard time forcing students to do that every time when they can add a citation source right here. So it basically, I'll just go through website, site, and I can go through, put the author, different things. If I had a print book, I could type in the ISBN number and it would pull all the information from that book. And you'll see down at the bottom, when I'm done with everything, it will insert this into the document. If I were to actually publish that, I might not publish that. So the other tools I think are huge are Translate Document. This is great for teachers that need to give their students. I know currently in our state, in Utah, we are a very refugee-friendly state. And so we have refugees coming from Ukraine, from South America, from the Middle East, and depending on the time of year and what's going on in the world. But we can instantly translate an entire document. It's not perfect. I understand that Google Docs is not perfect, but it's getting a lot better. So if I select all, go to Tools, click Translate Document, choose the language that I want. You can see that they have a lot of them. Vietnamese. The beautiful thing about this, when I translate something into a new document, it's going to create a new document in that language. It doesn't, so you'll have the English version or the original version and the translated document side by side. So when I click on translate, you'll see up in the top right here that now I have my exact same document with all of the information Google translated into Vietnamese. I do not speak Vietnamese, but I'm assuming that this is in Vietnamese. Those of you that are watching that do speak Vietnamese, if you could jump into the comments and let me know if it's in Vietnamese, that would be fantastic, right? So Zach, I think that's a great question. To me, I think it depends on how you want to. We're going to shift gears here from switching languages, Zach. So what I would do, there's two questions that you have. So the first question I had to answer is, I think for me, depending on where that document is going, do you make it public on the web or do you share the page? I think for me, just because I did it as a teacher, I made things public on the web. As I've become an administrator and worked more with other schools that are using the document and linking to that, I publish it to the web. So I think it depends on where you're going and who your intended audience is. For me as a teacher, it was always parents. I just published it to the web and I just let parents have access, like not to edit or to pull that information, but I mean to just view that document. And I'm going to take the translated copy off here. So we're back to the original. So that's a great question. So one of the ways that you can enlarge the cursor on a Mac is, I'll actually do a video. That's a great question. I'm going to write this down so I can actually do a tutorial. There's a couple add-ons in Chrome that you can do that, but there's a setting in Mac where you can make it a little bit bigger. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it on the fly. And so, but it is possible just to do straight from the Mac to enlarge the size of your Mac. That you can also do an add-on for Chrome where it will be a different picture. Instead of the little arrow, you can turn it into like a ball or an airplane or a colored circle or something like that. Isabel, great question. So quotation marks in German, I think that would fall under special characters here. And I think you would need to go to punctuation. Hopefully you're following along. Go to punctuation. And let's see, there's up, down, upside down there. I don't know what it looks like. And so other European scripts, maybe it would fall under here, other European scripts. I can't see in the comments if it's there, but I think that's how you would do other. Let's see. Greek, Georgian, historic, maybe in Greek. I'll look at it. That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So going along with tools, the last thing, and I'll show you how this works live. It is beautifully wonderful. This is for students, maybe students that are struggling with language, students that aren't as good with typing or reading. And I'm thinking about younger kids, elementary kids, maybe older kids, right, that are learning the language, is that they can just talk speech to text. So this is also part of the read write add-on if you're familiar with that with students. But if I go to tools, go to voice typing, it'll pull up. I do not want to type in Filipino. Excuse me. I click to speak. It's going to do voice to text live as I'm speaking, period, new paragraph. It takes a few times to learn the language and how to tell it what to do, period, new paragraph, but it goes pretty quickly. This is something that I've helped my dad out. He's a little bit older and can't see the keyboard anymore. So he's actually just talking out his life story in Google Docs. And then myself and my sister, we go back and edit. So it's a great way for maybe struggling students to get their thoughts out on paper without typing information, period. And I know I didn't add a lot of periods there, period, comma, quote, unquote. So there's a lot of different things that you can do here. And there's a whole language. I'm going to turn this off now. There's a whole language of how to speak to text. There's instructions. Adding add-ons, we already talked about at the very, very beginning. We talked about help. Before we go to help, I'm going to just show you the shortcuts on using Google Docs. So if you're on a Mac, it's Command ? I believe if you're on a PC, it's either Alt or Shift. It might be Control. It's one of those magic buttons over in the left-hand corner where you can add the hotkeys or the keyboard shortcuts. So the one that I like the most, obviously editing here, navigation, chat. There's text formatting. I think these are pretty familiar because these have been the same for as long as I can remember. Bold, italic, and underline, strike through. Menus, you can jump to inserting menus here. Some people do not like keyboard shortcuts, and that's fine. I do think that they're super helpful. So when you're looking at count words, instead of pulling your, cursor and going up here, you can just hit Command Shift C and it'll give you a word count right there live in the document. And you can go up to Tools, go to Word Count, click here. If you're ever looking for a shortcut, hopefully you saw that as I was going there, Tools. Anytime there's a shortcut available for something or to do something, it'll show up right there. And this is throughout the entire Google universe, right? Anytime there's a shortcut that's available, it'll be there. And it's, from my understanding, it's computer compatible. So Google recognizes that I'm on a Mac, and so they show me the Mac keyboard shortcuts. If you're on a PC, it shows you the PC shortcuts. If you're on a Chromebook, it will give you the Chromebook shortcuts, which are probably very, very similar to the PC version of the shortcuts. So a couple other things that I just wanted to show you before we kind of finish up with just Google Docs in general. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going across this. This is how you can change your font. You can, use any of the fonts that you want. Text size, bolding, images. Some of the new things that Google has done is they've done multi-select text. This just came out a couple weeks ago. Super exciting. Is instead of changing this now and then scrolling up here and changing this, what you can do is by multi-selecting text. So I hit Command, and you'll notice that I'm highlighting these different sections, and I'll show you in just a second. So I've got these 6 sections highlighted. I'm going to change all of them at one time. I go from normal text to heading 3, and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing before we do this. It's going to change my formatting over to the left, which is fine because I can undo that. But all of these should go to heading 3 now in one change instead of changing it 6 times. And you'll see now that all of those changed. So it's multi-text, edit, and select. I don't know why it's taken so long, to be honest with you. I mean, it's been years that people have been asking for this Google tool. So I'm going to hit Command Z, and it'll undo all of that. This is great if you're working in magazine format, because if I have, again, headings, let's go back to, let me just pull text in that's already formatted. And it's easier because it's pre-formatted and I have that. So I'm at ESPN, and I'm going to take as much of this text as I can. We'll just go from there. When I say magazine format, I maybe Chicago style documents. I'm in a blank document now. I trash that bookmark. I want to edit all of this text at one time. And it's not just the formatting of the text. I can change the font, I can change the color all in one. So I change it to rock salt. Come over to text color. I want it to be red. So it's an easy way to edit documents. So think if you're, I'm a teacher, right? I'm super excited. I haven't told anybody in the world yet, but I'm actually teaching a class next year in the school that I'm a principal at. So I'm pretty excited about that, to get back into the classroom and work right next to my teachers, creating content and stuff for my students. But anyway, so you can edit all of these things in one fell kind of swoop at the same time, where historically before this, you had to go and change it individually. And it's not only the color of the text, the font, right? It's the formatting of where it's at on the page. So I can change all of this at one time. It's just, oh my gosh, it saves so much time. I'm so glad that Google did this. So there's that. The other thing, when you click on help, Docs help, training. When you click on training, if you have questions that I did not answer today, please email me or put them in the comments. I will go back. I will do a tutorial. Again, my philosophy is to help teachers help kids. And so that's what I really want to do, is help all teachers, right, everywhere, to do that. So when you click on training, it's actually going to take you to the Google Docs Training Center, and it'll walk you through so many things if you're brand new to Google Docs. I think the other thing with the Help tab is it will give you the shortcuts. So you can add shortcuts to Google Docs and add information. The other thing that you saw there were help Google Docs improve. So if you have a suggestion for Google Docs and you want it to get to Google, you can go here and you can include a screenshot of what your problem is and what you'd like to see. So I think it's just a great way to give that they're taking feedback from their users. And I mean, I know there's millions, billions of people that are using Google Docs now, but I'm not going to send this because I don't have anything to share with them. But it's a great way to let Google know what you want to do. As far as Google Docs outside of Docs itself, the one thing additional, and we've got a few minutes left, that I want to show you is Google Docs in Calendar, or adding Docs in Calendar. So actually I have a meeting at 9 o'clock that I have to leave for and go back. So when I'm creating an event in Calendar, I want to share a specific agenda or create a new document that everybody's going to be working on together using Google Calendar. So I'm going to go to more options in Google Calendar, and you'll see right down here that I can actually create meeting notes straight from this document. And you'll see right here, hopefully, let me go full screen and get my ugly face out of here. And I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully you can read that. Oh, I'm not going to be able to. Let's see. Oh, that's just zooming my other screen. Anyway, the document will be created when you save the event. So the minute that you save the event, there will be a document here that everybody that's invited or attending that calendar event will have access to. So when we get there to the event, the notes are already created. I don't have to find a document. I don't have to share with everybody else. You know, that kind of rigmarole of everybody searching for documents and doing things. It's already there. In my opinion, and again, what I would do if it's a regular occurring meeting, I would use the same document and use the same calendar invite. So it's just always the same. And you're literally saving your team, whether it's a grade level team, a department team, a subject area team, a leadership team, whatever your team is, it's saving everybody 2 or 3 minutes every time you meet. And if you're meeting 30, 40 times a year, I mean, that's a few hours that you're saving just by putting the document there on a running agenda. When we talked about a running agenda, I'm going to go back to the document that we use. So this is our running agenda that we use for our weekly PLC. So all of the teachers every Friday, either virtually or in person, use a running agenda. I just copy and paste the date, everything, and I make a new version right here. And the way that I have it set up is it automatically has the weeks here. So we, as a team and a small school, right? I have 13 teachers. We're a virtual school in a district of 55,000 students. But I can go back to any date at any time, and I can look at what was assigned to what teacher, who was responsible for gathering the data. If I'm in a small team meeting as an elementary or a middle school, who's responsible to call the parent that week? Who's responsible to reach out to the student? Who's going to follow up with this question? There's a lot of different things that you can put in here. And in my mind, if you can save 3 minutes here, 5 minutes in Gmail, 10 minutes in Docs, 8 minutes in whatever, it's well worth your time, right? To do this initial setup. So again, I can jump down to anything here. This is more of a recommendation to be more productive. You can see it all goes all the way back to the beginning of the year. But I plan on doing these every Thursday until school starts. So if you're here and you enjoyed this, I would love the feedback. This is my first live stream that went according to plan. I'm going to try and keep them about in an hour, different topics, different things that I'm comfortable with, and I feel like I can help and save people time and energy. If you're here, it's most likely because you work with kids on a daily basis. I know for a fact that last year was even more difficult than the previous year. I love you so much for what you do for kids. I know they're not my kids, but I recognize that the future generation and who is going to take care of us when we're older is my age kids and younger. And so as a former teacher, as a parent of 7 kids that are in public education, I cannot thank you enough for what you do on a daily basis. I know that you're there, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for the kids. Keep loving them, keep caring about them. They're just kids. They don't know what they're doing sometimes. Again, I'd love it if you would share, like, follow, do all of those things, but I truly do this for you. So have a fantastic day. Thank you for jumping on. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you're here.